Hello, my Teaserking family. I don't know what to talk about right now. Now, let's first talk about silver, gold, and the silver, gold, and the silver, gold, and the price fixing going on. So, as we know, silver and gold are price fixed on COMEX. Normally, if you do a trade, you have an ounce of gold and you sell it to somebody, and they buy the ounce of gold, and it's a very simple thing. What happens with COMEX is I sell an ounce of gold that I don't have, and then there's I sell a lot. I sell 1,000 ounces of gold that I don't have, and what happens to the price? It drops because I'm selling it, and the buying is disconnected. And the price is low, so people go, oh, you know what? I'm not going to make money on gold and silver. And I was having a discussion with a friend yesterday, and I just wanted to bring it to light. So what happens is silver and gold don't go up in price because they're being held down by price fixing. Sort of like an NFL game when the ref keeps calling pass interference or not calling pass interference, like the New Orleans, Minnesota game when they didn't call it, which brought in the rule. So what you have is gold and silver very, very undervalued. And the question that I'd say is, why would Putin own 3,000 tons of gold if it was a bad investment? Why would China own 3,000, more than probably at least 3,000, let's say 5,000 or 6,000 tons of gold if it wasn't a good buy? Why would these guys are smart guys? They're not going to buy all this if it's got no value. So the left hand say, don't buy it because it's cheap. It's $1,800. It's $30, $25 an ounce for silver. It's $3,000. It's $2,000 an ounce for gold. And the right hand's going, keep the price low. Keep the price low so I can buy it. So we're looking at football cards yesterday, and I was showing him the difference between a PSA 9 and a PSA 10. So up came the Jerry Rice card. PSA 9, couple thousand. PSA 10, 100,000. It was 130,000. And what comes to mind is, well, would you rather own an ounce of gold or a Jerry Rice PSA 10? And I'm struggling to find why the PSA 10 is $120,000 or 130, and gold's 1,800, 1,900, 2,000. Wouldn't gold be worth more than a Jerry Rice rookie card? So when I see cards that go for $100,000, the Montana rookie, the Walter Payton rookie, then I see the Jordan cards and the Mantle cards, you just scratch your head going, why wouldn't gold be more valuable than a card, even though it's a Jordan or a Mantle or a Brady or Montana or Rice or anything like that? And I think that's my point. I think gold is more valuable, but the free market is allowing the price to go up, when gold, the free market is not letting the price go up. And I think that's really the key to it, is that the gold and silver is not in the free market. And it's not because the people want to buy cheap. They want it to keep the price low so they can buy. So Putin can buy tons and tons of gold because the price is only $1,900, $2,000. So the question came, if the Jerry Rice card that you see at 120,000 was selling at 1,900, would you buy it? And your first thought, if you didn't see the 120, would be, no, it's only 1,900. I'd rather have the ounce of gold than the Jerry Rice rookie card PSA 10. And that's where you got to just scratch your head going. But if you know it's 120,000 and you could get it for 18. So right now, if I go on eBay and there's a PSA 10 Jerry Rice for $2,000, And then I can see the past one went for 130. Are you buying it? And the answer is, of course. You would buy the PSA 10, or if you were at a card show, let's say you go to a card show. My buddy Nick, who I like to use as examples, went to one, I think, in New Jersey, New York area. Now, let's say he's at the show and there's a Jerry Rice PSA 10, so no risk, it's graded, and he can get it for $2,000. Would he buy it? I would say I would buy it in a heartbeat because I can see it's PSA 10. You can't hide that, so you can see it's in great shape. And then you just go, okay, it's a Jerry Rice, it's PSA 10. I can see the value on eBay of 120,000. So the dealer screwed up. The dealer doesn't know the value, or took the value of a PSA 9 and is marking it. The dealer doesn't know what he's got. And that's the point of it. But yes, if it's 120. Now, why is that so much more than gold is beyond me. And that's where I think gold's supposed to be at versus a Jerry Rice card, a Montana card, a Walter Payton card, all these PSA 10s. You can't tell me there's more demand for a Jerry Rice than gold. And then we brought up international. Well, do you think the people in Europe would rather have a Jerry Rice card or gold? Do you think they even know who Jerry Rice is? Good comment. I bet the guys in America would buy Jerry Rice, but the guys in Europe, maybe Spain and Italy, don't know who Jerry Rice is, or Russia, or any of these. They don't know who he is. Therefore, they don't care about baseball cards there. And my point was but I bet they do with soccer players. So if it was Ronaldo, they probably would buy his card for $100,000. The idea was it's a collectible, it's an asset. So would they buy assets? Yes. Now, would you rather have a card or gold? Now, I think everybody knows about gold, and I don't think everybody knows about sports cards. Most people don't realize that the sports cards have went way up. I remember having a conversation with a friend of mine in Las Vegas like a year ago, November. So not this November, a year ago. And we're talking sports cards, and we're saying, well, they're not worth anything. And, so I'm ready to get rid of them. Well, there's no value in them. What's the point? And then, so you realize that there's no value. They just haven't. And then I stumbled, for some reason, I was on eBay, probably looking at gold and silver prices. And somehow I stumbled into a PSA 10 Michael Jordan, and it was $80,000. And I said, oh, wait a minute. These cards have a value if they're PSA 10. PSA 9, not so much, but a PSA 10 of a major star is going to have a value, especially the rookie card. Now, the Jordan 90 hoops cards, PSA 10 are worth $200-300, not thousands, but still, those are heavily produced and $5 cards. Even a 9 maybe gets you $50-60, and the 10 gets you $200-300. So they have a smaller value, but they still, for that card, have a value. So people realize they got to get out of US dollars, and they're buying the gold and silver assets. So let's get into class. And I don't know what to talk about. Do we want to talk about economic history? What's a good thing to talk about? Oh, I know. Okay. Let's go through June 15th, 1993, definitions. Let's see. We're talking about everybody has the right to private property, free trade, no slavery, written constitutions, which is a rule of law, no inflation, money is wealth, low taxes, interfere with the rights of private property, and little government. This is how the U.S. was founded. This is called is this mercantilism. I don't think so. I'll get to the name. I think mercantilism is state control, is basically socialism. So this is what you want if you're running. If we're going to open up a country on an island, this is what we want: private property, free trade, no slavery, written. You want law, written constitution. You don't want inflation. You want money. You want low taxes because it interferes with the rights of private property, and you want little government. You do want rules, and you want laws, and you want safe business and safe money. So then you see the different countries. So initially you had Holland from 1600 to 1650. Amsterdam was the world financial center. You had New York, the Dutch East India Companies, Cape of Good Hope. Then France became number one from 1650 to 1789. France was the cultural center, language of the world, computers, world's largest population. Science was number one. So the school of Salamanca is free trade. So there was this school, the Spanish government's basically this is Spain, and the Spanish missionaries came up with this. The University of Salamanca, Solamonca, the University of Salamanca. That's really where, that's Austrian economics. That's what works. And they oppose mercantilism. So mercantilism is socialism, when the state controls things. This is bad. You want the free market. You want me to be able to sell football games and to sell pens and T-shirts. That's what I want to do, and I can make money at it. Fine. Keep the government out of it, right? If the government's going to charge me taxes and charge you taxes and this huge sales tax and income tax, you don't have any money, it all goes to the government. What does the government do with the money? Nothing. And then they start doing favors and everything. So we're going to get into that. U.S. So in 1776, the U.S. fights England over mercantilism. U.S. arguments, Salamanca, natural law, physiocrats, all these ideas crystallize in U.S. today. So that's where it all comes from, this Salamanca University, laissez-faire, free market, keep the government off our backs. There was 4 revolutions. There was the Industrial Revolution, steam engine. Now we can go faster. Instead of a horse, you use trains. It's cheap transportation. You had mass production and mass markets, fast and efficient. We can travel the ocean quickly, fast trade, steam engine. That helped. That's the Industrial Revolution. Now we're not using horse and buggy. We're not using ourselves. We're using engines. July 4th, 1776, of course, the American Revolution. Government, local and limited. King is not the law. Everybody wants freedom from other countries. So the British were trying to use mercantilism and say, well, we're going to tax you. We're like, what the hell are you taxing us? We don't live in England. What are you doing? Well, I want my money. Sounds familiar. Adam Smith writes The Wealth of Nations. Smith takes the ideas from Salamanca and creates a system. He takes on mercantilism, which is socialism. Money is the source of wealth. He says production is the source of wealth. More efficient the division of labor, the more productive the people will be. Well, what is division of labor? Division of labor is you're a painter, you're a carpenter. I'm a handicapper, and I'm in finance. And you're a lawyer, and so everybody has their own thing. Not everybody's the same. So then I can hire an accountant, and I can hire a lawyer, and I can hire a guy to build a house. I can hire a guy to make a car. I can hire a mechanic. All of these people I can hire. That's what a division of labor is, and it helps the system because then there's somebody who can do it. What if there was nobody that could fix the car? Your car breaks down. Now what do you do? Nobody does it. If you're the only one that does it, guess how much money you can charge? You can charge a lot of money. But that's what division of labor is. That's what Adam Smith came up with. And that's really the key to our society now, is that the theory is anybody can do what they want, what they enjoy. You learn it. This is why I teach, to try to make people aware of things and how to do it better. Back to Adam Smith, division of labor and productivity. The doctrine of the invisible hand. Now, this is a key point that I don't think anybody understands. And I watched some guy on YouTube butcher this. What is the doctrine of the invisible hand? People should be free to make money by producing what the people want. The demand. Blue shirts, then I'm going to make it. By self-interest. You increase supply, prices drop because now you have competition and more supply. The best way to spread wealth. This is why you won't have the rich and the poor if you follow this thing. Everybody can be wealthy and productivity increases, prices drop. So as you're more productive in making the shirt and you can make it quicker and cheaper, you can lower your price to meet the market. That's the best for the public, is to have good quality and cheap prices. To promote the common good, economy is automatic. This is the invisible hand. That's it. Do what you want, make money, and you know, the productivity goes up, the costs go down, and the consumer benefits. That's all the invisible hand is. It's leave everything else out of it. In other words, you're letting me pick football games. Just leave me alone. Let me pick my games. You want to be a math person, just leave you alone. Do your math, do your writing, do your astrology, whatever it is you like to do, do it. Get out of your way. Let you learn it and do it and be the best at it. Laissez-faire. What is laissez-faire? People think that's a bad thing. Laissez-faire simply is leave it alone. Keep government out of the way. Prices drop, standard of living goes up, free trade. That's it. Invisible hand, laissez-faire. These are good things. They're not bad things. People that say they're bad things are socialists who want the government to run everything. Believe me, you don't want the government telling you what to do. You want to do what you want. You want freedom. You want to be able to choose. Imagine somebody telling you what wife to choose or what girl to date or what food to eat. I mean, that's insane. You want freedom. You want to go make money because you need money to go buy food, to go date girls, to go buy a car, to go, buy whatever. That you want freedom. That's what you want. That's what we live for. And that's what we don't want to give up. And that's what communism takes, is they make you poor. That's what's going on now. They're trying to make you poor. And the poorer you get, there goes your freedom. You can't go on the vacation. You can't date the girl because how are you going to take her out to dinner? You can't buy a nice shirt or a car because you won't have any money. We're going to tell you what to do with your money. That's where it's headed with the digital dollar. This is probably the biggest point I try to get across by buying gold and silver. It's freedom. If I own gold, if I own US dollars and it goes down, tell you what happens. I've lost my freedom. I can't go buy something. I can't take the vacation to Hawaii. I can't go to Vegas and play poker and bet football. I can't do my passions. That's all if I use the US dollar, and Biden does what he's doing where he's trying to kill it, and the Chinese and the Russians are trying to get off the US dollar for the oil and use a new China dollar backed by gold. But if I own gold and silver, the two most undervalued, because the government doesn't want you to have freedom. They want to control you. They want to be important. They want you need us. We're the government, because that's all they can do, right? So the only way they can keep you is to keep you poor, where you need I need you. I'm voting for you. Please give me some money so I can go get a steak and I can go, take my girlfriend on a vacation, or my wife or my family. And that's what they're doing, is they're preventing you by doing it. So as they kill the back by gold, They're going to watch your transactions. Wait a minute, no, you can't. Sorry, you can't use your money to go on a vacation to Hawaii. You can't take your girlfriend out. Can't take your family out. You can't go to Florida for vacation. We're not going to give you the money. That's what they're trying to do, is take your freedom. Gold and silver will give you the freedom because they'll keep the value. So as the dollar drops, the gold and silver go up. Now, yes, it's price fixed, but it's not going to stay price fixed. Eventually, the price fixing will come off, and it'll go where the Rice and the Montana cards are at 100 grand. Well, Howard, it's $2,000. It's not going up. Well, it will. It's being suppressed. But you can only sell 10,000 of fake silver that you don't own, and somebody's stupid enough to buy it. I mean, who's buying this silver, right? Who's buying these contracts thinking they have silver, but they don't? I mean, I don't understand. They're shorting it. There's got to be a buyer, right? You can't short it without a buyer. Anyway, so but it can only happen for so long. We want freedom. We want laissez-faire. Leave us alone. We want the invisible hand. We can do what we want and make our money and have our freedom. Revolution, 1776 to 1989, 1990. Communist revolution was May 1st, 1776. A guy named Isaac Weishaupt systemized things. It was the end of private property, influence, no religion or God, no monarchy. That's communism. Nobody wants that. System like Amway, KGB, and CIA, person on top controls person on the bottom. They don't know the purpose of the system. That's the KGB and the CIA. They use this system. So what happens? The guy on top controls the guy on the bottom, but nobody really understands it. It's just done. Mercantilism is socialism, government control. The French Revolution ends mercantilism. So in France, they were using socialism, and then they had the revolution, and it ended it. In 1789, France became the #1 economy because they got rid of socialism. How about that? France went to war a lot. 65% went to interest on the national debt. They went broke. Tax rate was 50% on individuals. Government went bankrupt. So if I have high taxes, I go bankrupt. If I have socialism, I go bankrupt. If I have capitalism, I become the #1 country. Estates General, Constitutional Convention, Talleyrand, print out paper money, us church land, or versus church land. Church owned 30% of the land, started the French Revolution, printed money increased, inflation increased, prices increased. Robespierre, wage and price controls, reign of terror, chop off heads. So when you get socialism and communism, it ain't good. France was in total chaos. Now here comes Napoleon, dictator. So when you have trouble and people are really, losing it, here comes the dictator. Hitler did it. Napoleon did it. Putin's doing it now. No more paper money puts France on the gold standard. Lowers taxes 15%. Smart guy wins battles. Reinforced trade restrictions. Waterloo in 1815. Mercantilism dies with the Napoleon defeat. So all of a sudden, Napoleon dies, so does socialism. 1815, Latin Monetary Union established the gold standard. 1821, England adopts the gold standard, and guess what? England becomes the #1 power. How about that? So France is #1 with the gold standard, with laissez-faire capitalism. They go to socialism. They go bankrupt. Napoleon kills the country. Wow, all these people that raised inflation, raised the prices, killed the economy, killed the country. Here comes England. They say, you know what? We're going to go on the gold standard, 1821. You know what? We became the #1 power. So there must be a correlation. If I go on the gold standard, I become #1. And if I get off of it and I print and I go socialist, I go out of business. It keeps happening over and over, and it's about to happen here. So this is why I understand it. I'm reading it going, this is what I've learned. This is history since Amsterdam. When did I start this? 1776, the Communist Revolution. I think it was even before that. 1600, Holland's the number one power. Then France, 1650 to 1789. Then England, 1821. They adopt Adam Smith's views. So now we're in England, 1821. They go to a gold standard, age of classical liberalism, which is freedom. England becomes number one. They adopt Adam Smith's views. 1830s, they outlaw slavery. So you get rid of slavery. How about that? Adopt free trade, rule of law, adopt gold standard, laissez-faire economics, keep the hands off, keep the government, and low taxes. So this seems to be the formula. If you do this, it's a very good way to live. It's a very good, you become number one, you become that. And guess what the U.S. did? We did that until recently. Standard of living increases, longevity increases, no world wars during this time. There's no reason to go to war. You free trade. As long as people are paying you and you're making goods and everybody's making money, why would you go to war? You go to war for money, but if everybody's happy, you don't. First power, not due to military, but due to industry. So the Industrial Revolution happens. Now their productivity goes up, sales go up because they're making products cheaply that people can afford. They held 1/3 of the world, strongest navy, only property owners voted. English strategy, 3 parts. So here's England's strategy. 1, strong navy, big enough to control. Financial stability, always pay their bills. Pound sterling was gold. So they have money that's gold because you can't print it. So you have all this money in gold. There's no inflation. Inflation devalues the money to nothing. Gold, where's gold at? Gold doesn't go down. Divide Europe. Keep all countries fighting themselves. No other, just one power. London was the world banker. Bought London bonds. London bought bonds from around the world. So you have one bank, and that's London, and London controls all the money, and they're the best. To become a financial power, I'm going to read it again. Low taxes, free trade, most important, rule of law, stable money, and good communications. So if you have all that, that means a low government interventions. The government, you don't need the government. The market will control itself. If I want to sell this for $50 and you want to sell it for $30, I'm out of business because everybody's going to buy it for $30. That's what that means by market controlling itself. That's what the invisible hand means. It says you can make the shirt if you want, but then the market is going to dictate what you can sell it for and what your costs are. And if your costs are lower than the market and you can make money, then we have competition, which is very good and very good for the consumer. So I can buy this shirt, which is good quality, for $30. If it was a monopoly, I got to pay $200. They don't care. There's no competition. They don't have to make it better. Okay. We're back to inflation. Let's see. Well, I think the next one we'll get into is the U.S. Jefferson and Hamilton and Washington and all that stuff. I think we'll do next. Let's see if there's anything to leave you with. Real quickly, this Civil War, 1861 to 1865, turning point in the U.S., states' right about slavery and tariff for free trade. The South real quickly, the South wanted free trade, low prices for manufacturing goods so they can sell it to Europe with all the cotton and all that kind of stuff. So they want to sell it to Europe. They wanted the low price. They wanted free trade. They didn't want the tariff. The North wanted the tariff against the British. So, of course, as everything, it's about money. British bought cotton to make clothes. So what you have, the Civil War, is about tariffs. It's about money. The South didn't want to charge tariffs. They wanted to send the clothes to the British and then charge whatever the British and pay them. And then they make the clothes out of cotton, send it to the British. The North wanted the tariff against the British, which means tax them on the goods, whatever that the Britain wanted. The tariffs usually incoming. The North didn't want the British competition. The South sold cotton to Britain. It slowed the economic growth. And then I'll go one more. There's 4 ways to finance a war. And this is the problem of all wars. There's 4 ways. You can tax it, bonds, print the currency, or bank credit. And taxes are not inflationary. Bonds are not inflationary. The fiat currency is, and the bank credit is. Debt and interest, not on taxes, yes on bonds, no on fiat currency, and yes on bank credit. So when you go to expensive, you got to feed the soldiers. There's no money coming in, right? You're not producing a product and somebody's paying you. A war and military is all expense. How do you pay for it? So you got to pay for it with something. So your 4 options. The best option is taxes because there's no inflation and no debt. The fiat currency, you print it, so that's inflationary. The bank credit's both inflationary and debt. And the bonds are not inflationary, but they are debt. So the best way to go to war is taxes. But if you raise taxes too high, you start hurting the economy. So let's see. Well, I don't want to get too much into the war yet. Well, I got a lot of good stuff in here. After the Civil War, World War I have a note in here. Oh, I'm gonna read this one. Let's quickly talk about J.P. Morgan. Mr. Morgan ran the presidents in New York. He was an investment banker, imported capital from Europe, railroads, steel from England, prime political entrepreneur, expert in building cartels, guaranteed profits, limit competition. So this Morgan's about monopolies. In other words, no competition. I can't lose. He got government to regulate and limit competition. Price fixing. He wanted a central bank, the Fed. He's a bad boy. Rockefeller was a business entrepreneur, a cost cutter. He fought Morgan with antitrust laws, and Rothschilds controlled the Russian oil wells, presidents of Ohio. So Morgan gives you the presidents from New York, and Rothschilds give you the presidents from Ohio. So they put the puppets on the string. These are the guys who hold the string. Morgan was a Roosevelt, or Morgan had Roosevelt, 1901 to 1908. Rockefeller then has President Taft, 1909 to 1913. Morgan then has Wilson from 1913, who put in the income tax and the Fed. Senators were elected by popular vote. Guess who controls the Fed? J.P. Morgan. And I think that explains a lot. 3 keys to Morgan is antitrust laws, political entrepreneur, cartels. Business wants protection. And here is where our problem is. instead of having laissez-faire, invisible hand, we're going to have everybody go into business, do what you want. Here's the prices. We'll stay out of your way. This MF Morgan comes in and says, you know what? I can't compete. I want to be a monopoly. I'll put in my presidents. I'm going to put in monopolies. I'm going to put in cartels. I'm going to put in the Fed, and I'm going to run all the banks. So Morgan runs the Fed. Morgan runs the bank. Morgan's the a-hole who's price fixing COMEX, gold, and silver. Believe me, Morgan has tons of gold and silver, I would imagine. And this right here is the problem with having a guy do. I'm glad I found this, because this is really what the last piece I wanted to talk about today was. The Federal Reserve's evil. It shouldn't. There's no point of it. All they do, if you didn't have the Fed, you wouldn't need income tax. How about that? How about us going to work and not paying an income tax? The only reason we pay it is to pay the debt. Well, what's the debt? That's money printed by the Fed, and it's the stupidest thing in the world. Let's just go buy gold. Yeah, and you go to work, you get paid in gold and silver, and you go buy stuff in gold and silver. There's no income tax. There's no inflation. What a wonderful world. No taxes, no inflation. We'd all live happily ever after, highly successful. The more work you did and the more intelligence and the way you could come up with things and division of labor, we would all live very, very happy. We'd be in Hawaii every other week. We'd own Mercedes. We'd own nice houses. We wouldn't have to forcibly give up our money in taxes, in regulations. Regulations are increased taxes. I got to fill out this paperwork. I got to do this and that. I can't sell. That goes into my cost of selling my shirt for $20. I got to sell it. I got it $5 in taxes and regulations. This is the problem. So this is what the Morgans do, and this is the problem with the Morgans, and this is what leads to socialism and communism or dictatorships. Is this guy, he doesn't want capital. He doesn't want you to get ahead. He wants to control it. So he's in charge of the Federal Reserve and the banks and keeping gold and silver down, because he wants you to pay tax. He wants to keep everything in gold and silver. And that, my friends, is the problem with what they don't tell you and what is the problem. He's the problem is guys like Morgan. Not necessarily, Rothschild-controlled Russian oil wells and Ohio presidents. So you got free market. You got gold standard. You start building up a lot of money. And what happens? Guys get rich, and then they can't accept it. They want to control it. What do you have now? You got Gates, you got Zuckerberg, you got Biden, you got all these rich guys, and then you got all the government promises where I'll go be the senator. I want kickbacks. So now there's no freedom. There's no division of labor. A little bit. You really don't have free markets. You don't really have invisible hand. The government's in it. You don't have sound money. So if we get back to this point here, where did it go? So let's look at this now. Oh, I'm sorry. 1 second. Okay. So to become a financial power, you needed these 5 things. And do you have them? Low taxes. Do we have low taxes? No. Look at the gas. Look at income tax, sales tax. Free trade. Do we have that? Not if you're putting up, you're suspending Russian oil and China, whatever else, these currency things. So you don't really have trade. Rule of law is a joke. You don't have a rule of law. You said the wrong thing. Look at Canada. You supported the truckers. We're going to freeze your bank accounts. What kind of rule of law is that? That's not a rule of law. Stable money. Well, that's a joke. We don't have stable money. They're inflating it. They're printing it. They're making it worthless. Don't forget that's what's happening, and you need to to protect yourself. I know some people think Bitcoin's a protection, but it's not an asset. It to me is PayPal. Now, I don't know how Bitcoin has a $40,000 value. I get the Bitcoin argument of we're not involved with the fiat currency to a point. I'm over here in Bitcoin land, and it's gone up in value. Now, I don't know why it's gone up in value, because it's not an asset. It's just, I don't know. So when these guys say, oh, it's okay to buy Bitcoin, I got a question, but where's the value coming from? And I don't have an asset. It's not an asset. I don't get it. Now the Russians are buying Bitcoin to get out of rubles because they're losing their money in rubles, and it's for safety. They're hiding in Bitcoin. I get that part of it, but as an investment, I don't get it. And believe me, I'm an economist. I know what an asset is. Mickey Mantle card's an asset. Would you rather hold a Mickey Mantle card or a Bitcoin? You tell me. And the last thing is good communication. Do you have good communication? No, you do not have good communication. You have the news, which is biased. You can't get the truth. You don't know what's really going on. You don't know what's going on. We all believe the election was fixed. Some people do, some don't. Can we trust the news? What's going on in the Ukraine and Russia? Is Russia telling the truth? Is Ukraine telling the truth? What's going on with NATO? What's going on with Biden? Hunter Biden's laptop. Everybody lied saying, oh, there's nothing on it. Misinformation, all this bullshit. That's not good communication. Good communication is the news saying Hunter Biden's laptop, yes, he was in bed with the China and the Russia and the Ukraine, and he gave his money to his dad. And wait, we won't say anything because we want his dad to get elected, because we don't want Trump, because we want all the kickbacks, and we want socialism because for some reason we don't want the invisible hand. We don't want people to be free to do what they want. We want to and so you've got some sick people running the government who want to control everybody. And the best way to control you is with currency. So if I screw up the currency and you have 100 grand and now I've screwed it up and now it's worth 20, and this is happening in Russia right now. I got a friend in Russia. She can't use any US. I can't PayPal her, MoneyGram her. I can't use FedEx, UPS. So all of a sudden, she doesn't have any money. How's she supposed to eat? How can she pay rent? What's going on? The ruble is what, $100 a ruble for $1. It used to be 70, which was bad enough. That was Putin printing to buy gold. So Putin's smart enough to know the only real stable money is gold and silver. That's stable money. Now you got JP Morgan trying to do this bullshit with COMEX to make you think it's not stable. Gold doesn't have a value. It's 2,000 an ounce. It's never going. It's not going. You don't want to invest in it because that's the control. If you don't jump into gold and silver, you're going to be controlled because what else is there? Now, believe me, if I could have found another option with my money, I would have. So what the hell is the point of going to work and making money and betting football and making money and playing poker and making money if all the money is going to be worthless? I just spent a lot of time and energy doing nothing. So what I do is I take all the money that I've won and I've made and I buy gold and silver because I know that is the sound money. That is the stable money that I'm looking for. Now, can I go into euros and can I go into rubles or yuan or the British pound or the Swiss franc? No, because they're all printed. They're all just paper. They're all fiat dollars. They're just printed by the government. They're just paper. They're not backed by anything. They're all going to go broke because every fiat currency, and I just started with what? Amsterdam, France, England, they all were number one, and then they all went to shit because they inflated the money, and guess what? It went to zero. So if that's not the case, why isn't Amsterdam number one now? Why isn't France still number one? Why isn't Britain number one because they inflated their dollars. They printed, and now they're no longer number one. Well, so why is ours going to stay number one? And as Russia has sanctions and China doesn't like the U.S., so as they both get together, they start buying Saudi petrodollars that are going to be with some gold in it that are not going to be U.S. The only reason the U.S. dollar is the big dollar is because it's linked to oil, and they don't need oil anymore, but they keep going with oil. What's with these electric cars? So you're not dependent on oil. Whose thought is this? Whose brainchild is that? I don't know. I'm reading an article today from a guy at Daimler who says the electric engines and the electric will always be more expensive than the regular engines. And the biggest kicker is they're running out of silver, which is needed in the electric engine. So silver is going to go to the moon, but there's not a lot of silver left. How are you going to build all these batteries for these cars, which are not going to run on gas? They're going to run electric, which means you need a battery. How are you going to do that without silver? Good luck. You can't have a car with a battery powered car without the battery. So they're trying to get away from oil. And that's what ties the US dollar as the premier currency. So is it time for the US to not be the premier currency? Is it going to go to China, or is it going to be it's probably going to be a basket, Swiss francs and pounds and gold and silver, maybe some dollars in it. Hard to say. That's what's happening. And I just gave you 5 examples of they were number one and now they're gone. New England was number one and then they lost Brady and now they're an afterthought. And Kansas City was number one a couple years ago, went to the Super Bowl twice. And now Cincinnati's number one. And the Rams are number one. That's not going to last. So it goes and comes in cycles. So once you have the U.S. the U.S. government, corrupt as it is, taking bribes and kickbacks, and companies pay the government officials and have some sort of monopoly, and you've lost free speech. So all these factors that I'm telling you, to become a financial power, what we used to have in 1776, the Constitution, what does it say? The only money that's muddy is gold and silver. So how the hell did we get away from that? You should never have a central bank. JP Morgan comes in and says, you know what, let's do a central bank. And he pays the politicians, and we have an income tax. Well, you have to have an income tax if you have a central bank, because the central bank's going to print money, which prints debt. And once you have debt printed, you got to pay for it. So you need an income tax. And all that is to pay the debt that you've created by the central bank, which you don't need. If I was the president, I would eliminate the central bank. Although I'd probably get killed doing it, but that's what I would do. It's not needed. There's no purpose of it. It doesn't help anybody. It destroys everybody. It takes your freedom. So this is what is happening. And that's what's happening now. So when I raise the flag, buy your gold and silver, what am I telling you? I'm saying I want you to keep your freedom. Now, I just did a football video, and what did I say? I was defending me as a handicapper, that I'm not a scammer, that I actually know what I'm doing, and that I'm trying to teach you how to pick games. And that's the point of my videos in my class, and why I call myself the professor, taking the money heist professor, and saying, look, this is what happens. This is how you pick football games. This is how you actually pick. I actually can predict it. I know what to look for, and I predict the games at a very high 75% rate. Yes, I do. Yes, it's in teasers, but I know how to bet them, and I know how to lock them, and I know money management, and I'm real. And I'm telling you the same thing here. This is what's going on. You don't have low taxes. You don't have the free trade. The rule of law is gone. The stable money is gone, and the good communications is gone. So the 5 pieces of the pie that you need to have a financial power, we don't have anymore. So why is everybody expecting business as usual? And, I'll tell people that maybe you should sell your stocks before they crash. And then, you can get into it later. Or why don't you buy gold and silver with the money? And when that goes up, and then you can sell that and go back into the market. I mean, it's going to go down. It's like driving to a light. It's going to turn red. It has to. It's going to. It's green, and as you get it, it's going to be red. The dollar is collapsing. The stock market is going to collapse because of the inflation. Costs will go up, but not every company. So I've got this Roadrunner Cup that I'm selling for $10, but my costs are going to go up because of inflation. The value of the dollar drops. It's going to take more dollars. Not going to be worse. It's going to take more dollars to buy whatever I need. This cost is going to 15. How is my stock going to do? If my costs went up, how can my revenue, will my revenue go up and keep my profit margin? So in other words, if I sell it for 50 now, my costs are 10, and now my costs go to 15, am I going to sell it for 20? Am I going to be able to sell it for 20? Do people need this mug, or are they going to buy a different mug called the Substitution Effect? What happened? Well, what I'm saying is I'm not going to be able to, my costs go to 15. I can't sell it at 20 because the market's not going to allow me. The market allows me to sell it for 15. So now the costs are 15, but I can't sell it for 20. I can only sell it for 15. What's stock? Stock is simply the value of your company. So if I'm making $5 and I sell 1 million mugs, I made $5 million. My stock goes up. But if my costs go up and I can't raise the price because it's a mug and people aren't going to spend $20 on it, my profit has to drop, right? Now it cost me 15 and my price is, I can sell it for 50. I'm breaking even. My financials are going to go down because I'm not making income anymore. I'm breaking even. My stock's going to drop. So on 99% of the companies, and we can go Ford, GM, Mercedes, Chrysler, whatever you want, if my costs go up. So let's look at Toyota, or let's look at Ford. So the cost of a Ford is maybe $16,000, and they sell it for less. And the market for Ford, you can't raise the price too much because you know what? I can go buy a Mercedes, or I can buy Alexa. I can buy something else. If you start raising the price, I might as well go buy a Mercedes. So my costs are 15. I sell it for 22. Now my cost just went to 20 because it costs more for steel and labor and electricity. And if I sell it for 22, I don't really make a lot of money. I'm going to raise my price to 27. Am I going to get any sales at 27? Because people in their mind going, well, I can afford 22 for a Ford, but I'm not going to spend 27 or 30 for a Ford. You can't just raise your price and expect the market to pay it. The market isn't making any more money. I've got my job. I'm not getting a big raise. And all my costs are going up. My rent's up. My food's up. My gas is up. So I don't have extra money to spend more on a car. So therefore, I'm not going to do it. So what happens to Ford stock? Well, the cost went from 15 to 20. If I go to 27, I don't sell any. If I keep it at 22, I don't make any money. So why would the stock go up? The stock has to drop. So I'm giving you a cup and I'm giving you Ford, showing you both. The cost goes up, but it's based on the market. Like people will just say, well, they'll just raise the prices. You can't just raise the prices. The market dictates, the invisible hand. That's what dictates what you buy. And you only have so much money. So if your costs go up, can you raise the price is the question. And I doubt it. There might be a few items. Mercedes, maybe, because it's type of good that you want the status. I drive a Mercedes, and if it costs $5,000 more, I don't care because I drive a Mercedes, and that's important to me. And I have the money to buy the Mercedes. But the average Joe who drives the Ford, the GM, they can't afford the extra 5,000. They go to a lower model, or they go to the used car, and we see the used cars are going way up. So with that said, you can't just raise your price, and there you go, and your stock's going to drop. So that's why stocks are going to drop, because the costs will go up. You can't pass the price on to the consumer. The consumer says, I can't afford it, I'm not going to buy it, or I just simply don't want to pay more. It's a Ford, I'm not going to pay 27 for it, I'm only going to pay 22. I'll go to GM, or I'll go to Nissan or Hyundai or some other brand, and then that's what happens. And then so if prices, if your financial statement now looks like your costs are high, your profit is very small or negative, nobody's going to own your stock. Your stock's going to drop. That's going to happen to 99% of the stock. Costs will go up. They can't pass it on because the market says, I'm not paying for it. And then the stock has to drop. The stock's being held up by the Federal Reserve, printing the money and putting it into stocks, which it shouldn't be doing. But that's not a real reason to buy the stock. Oh, I got money, I'm going to put it in Apple. Well, Apple didn't go up. Apple's financials aren't. Well, it doesn't matter. I'm putting it into Apple. And by the way, I'm going to sell it really quick anyway, because I'm going to basically take the money that I'm printing, and then I'll sell it, and I'll make all this money, and then I'll get out, and the people who are buying are going to get screwed. And that's what happens. So basically, that's why the market's going to drop. They can't really raise interest rates too much because that'll collapse the economy. So they'll inflate, and they'll keep making the value less, which is what they want. So they can come out with the new currency, and your gold and silver is your bloodline, your safety, maybe your Mantle cards, your Jordan cards, your Brady cards. Our assets will help you. Will the Bitcoin help you? I don't know that Bitcoin's going to run up from 40 to 100 because you switch currencies. I don't see why. It's not based on that. It's the $40,000 value has got nothing to do with the inflation or with gold or with the Mantle card. It's in its own little world. I don't know where it gets its value. Now, I'm a very logical, smart, financial type of person. You can hear it in my football. You can hear it here. I don't know where the value comes from. A value of a Mantle card I get. The supply and demand. There's only a few PSA 10 Mantles, therefore it's got $1 million value. The Brady card. Oh, there's only 100. It's the Jordan rookie card. There's not a lot of 10s because this centering was a problem by Flair. Therefore, when you get a 10, there's very small amount. There's huge demand for Jordan. That's why it goes for $1 million. I get that. Gold is being held down because the demand is huge, but the COMEX is keeping the price down. Well, that won't last. It's slowly getting out. And as more and more people demand it, JP Morgan won't be able to keep the price down with the fake sales of 1 million ounces of gold that they don't have. And I can't understand why people aren't going, well, I want to buy the gold, so give me the coin, or give me the block, give me the James Bond block, instead of buying something, an ETF that isn't real. It's not, you don't own the gold. So that's what I don't understand, is who's buying. Do they think they own gold? They don't. And that's the confusing part. So they're selling all this and nobody's buying it. So I don't understand it. But that's where supply and demand is not working in gold and silver because of an influencer keeping the price down. But you can see the Rice rookie card, supply and demand. People will pay $100,000 for a PSA 10 Rice because there obviously isn't that many. And he's a strong demand. He's Jerry Rice. He's Joe Montana. Walter Payton, all those rookie cards, PSA 10, $100,000. Why would gold only be $2,000? Bitcoin supply and demand, I'm confused. 20 million Bitcoins. Okay. So as there's more demand, is that raising the price? So in other words, we got 100 million people chasing 21 million Bitcoins. Is that going to raise the price from 40 to 41 to 42? That's where I'm confused, because I don't think they've sold all 21. And then you got miners who need to do the books, but they get paid in Bitcoin. But wait a minute, all 21 million are out. Who's going to mine? There's no point. There's no incentive to mine. So what that would tell me, if this is pure economics, this is Jerry Rice, would tell me there's more than 21 million people wanting, it doesn't have to be people, but there's more demand. The demand is for 50 million Bitcoins, but they only made 21. Then I could see the price going up. Maybe that's the case. There's 100 million people wanting Bitcoin, 100 million Bitcoins wanted. They only produce 21. The price goes up. But then there's far more Bitcoin than gold and silver. So if Bitcoin's 40,000, gold 70,000, 80,000. And I'm still struggling to understand why a Jerry Rice rookie card for 130,000 and gold's at 2,000 when the demand for gold is a lot higher than a Jerry Rice PSA 10 rookie. Sorry, Jerry Rice. I love you. You're the man. I got your rookie card, but I just don't understand why gold wouldn't be worth more. Everybody wants gold. Not everybody wants Jerry Rice cards. As my friend was talking to me yesterday, saying, "What do you think the people in Spain know about football and Jerry Rice?" I said, "Probably, but who knows?" But we all know they know about gold, and that's Russia, gold. Ukraine wants gold. Everybody wants gold, and yet it's 2,000 an ounce. Makes no sense. So it will have its day. It will explode because eventually J.P. Morgan can't keep the fingers in the dike holding the price down. He'll print it. They'll all want gold. They'll be smart enough to want the coin, not the paper, because the paper has many owners. Buy an ETF or this JP Morgan crap, there's 100 owners for your ounce of gold. So once people realize that and say, I want the ounce, you can't hold the price down anymore. Then you're going to see it way 100,000 for an ounce. I don't think would be if the Rice, Montana, and Peyton cards are 100 grand for PSA 10 rookies. Believe me, gold has to have a bigger demand than those. And so if they're 100, where do you think gold's going? And I laugh when I hear people, look at the chart, look at the trend. It's a teacup. It's this. It's all bullshit. It's price fixed. You can't look at a chart on a price fixed item. You can compare it to a Rice card, but you can't look at a chart and go, oh, it's about to break out. No, it's not about to break out. It'll break out once JP Morgan can't sell phony gold or sell these gold futures that nobody, you got to sell it to somebody. You can't, I'm selling the gold and nobody's buying it. What is that? I've never heard of that. That's not free market. Selling a cup I can only sell the cup if somebody buys it and gives me the $15. So I don't know how he's selling gold to nobody. That makes no sense. I'm selling these puts, but nobody's buying them or nobody wants to take ownership. I'm going to buy it, but I won't take ownership. I think that's what it is, right? So the people buying it aren't taking ownership of it. Now I'm really curious about what do you mean they're not taking? How can they do that? Who'd want to buy it and not take ownership? You don't own it. If you don't own it and 100 other people own it, I don't have anything. So why would I do that? So that's eventually going to run out probably soon. I can't give you a time. I was looking at a Tough Stuff over there, 1991 Tough Stuff. And it was priced in very good and near mint. And I'm looking at some of the prices. The Jordan rookie card in 1991, near mint was going for $310 for a near mint card. $310. Or it might have been a near mint. So that's a PSA 7, PSA 8. $310. Now if you got a 10, it's $1 million. But even back then, if you understood it, the Tough Stuff, and I'm going to show you. I was going through my stuff. This is a 1991 Tough Stuff, Barry Sanders. So I'm going to go to the Jordan. Basketball, 1986. There you go, 1986 Flair. This is in near mint condition, so this is a 7. And here's the Michael Jordan, $315 for the Michael Jordan rookie. And I remember going to card shows and looking. So people ask me, well, when do you think gold's going to go? So in 1991, it's $315 for a near mint because you couldn't find a gem. You couldn't find a 10. But look how they even priced it. This price guide's in near mint condition, which is really a 7. A near mint mint's an 8. So if you understand that, and that's what I tried to do. But when you go to the dealer, he would look at it he'd look at 310, and even if the condition's mint and it was nicely centered, you would pay the 310. So if you find a nice mint Michael Jordan, he's going to look at the 310, and you give him 300, he'll probably give it to you for 300. He doesn't understand it's near mint, that it's a 7, and he might have a gem mint or a mint. Let's say he has a 9. He doesn't know he's got it. He doesn't understand the grading. So you're getting a steal, even if you pay 300, if it's pretty mint, if it's sharp corners and fairly centered and a nice picture. I remember I got an Elijah one that's perfect. It's a 10. So people couldn't, where'd you get that? I said, I got it I found it at a dealer. Had a perfect Elijah one, 86 Flair, perfectly centered, sharp, everything's sharp about it. But I think, well, let's see. What was an Elijah one? Sorry about that. So an 86 Flair. Okay, the Elijah one, 86 Flair, was $55 for a near mint. So I probably paid $60 for a near mint, a 7. Mine's a 10. Okay, so $55. So Teaser King was smart enough to go after mint condition cards. So if they weren't perfectly centered and sharp corners and a nice picture, I didn't buy it. And I would wait and be patient for that. And then you can see, I probably paid less than $55 for a 10 Elijah one, which I don't know what it's going for now, 30, 40 grand, I would imagine, for a 10. But you can see that they priced it in near mint. So if you understood that, you would buy any mint card you saw is worth twice as much as the guide. But this is the problem with the guide, right? The dealers looking at the guide. That's silver and gold right now. So people are looking at silver at $26 an ounce. Now, there's no grading on, so you could get an MS-70, but it's not priced on the grade. It's just priced on the ounce. So it's $26 an ounce. You could get it, I think, for $33, $34 at your store. Excuse me. And so if you bought the Jordan for $310 in 91, it's 2022 and it goes for over $1 million. Would you have thought that? Would you have said, well, I'm going to buy the Jordan, it's going to be worth $1 million? And, no, that's what I'm trying to tell you with gold and silver. Not that it's going to be worth $1 million, but it's going up in value, and it's just a matter of time. And buy the silver at 26 is like buying the Jordan at 315. Okay, so let's look at the characteristics. Is it in mint condition? It's a coin. It doesn't matter unless it's all scratched off. But if you bought a new silver ounce coin, yeah, it's in mint condition. Is there demand for it? Yes, there's huge demand for it. And gold. There's demand for both because what creates the demand is the inflation. So as I'm ruining your dollar and it's become worth less and less, I take 50 grand before it's worth 30 and I buy gold and silver with it. That's the demand. I'm getting out of dollars as I'm losing value, to buy something worth value that's an asset will go up. If I was in Russia now and I'm in rubles, what am I doing? Just what Putin's doing, getting out of rubles into gold and silver, because he's it's losing it. So there's demand for there's huge demand for gold and silver because it's safety. In the US, so what's happening is, as the dollar becomes worthless, 90% of the people don't understand it. That's why I'm teaching you. As they don't understand it, they go, I'm going to go into Bitcoin. That'll save me. Gold and silver doesn't move, aka the Jordan card, right? It at some point it moves, but they don't. They only see it as a $300 card. So it doesn't move. So if it's not moving, well, I don't want to be in gold and silver, but look at Bitcoin. It went from 10 grand to 40 grand. It won't go anymore because now it's COMEX, it's regulated, and it'll hit it's hit its peak. Is there demand for it? Well, the demand was to get out of the dollar. I'm going to go into Bitcoin. But I'd rather be in gold and silver because I have an asset. I don't have an asset in Bitcoin. Or I'd have a Jordan card versus Bitcoin. If you notice, the Jerry Rice card's 100 grand, the Bitcoin's not. And again, it's very hard to understand that the Jerry Rice card's 130,000 for a PSA 10 Jerry Rice. Bitcoin's 40 and gold's 2,000. I mean, it blows my mind. Or the Montana or the Peyton, all those are $100,000 for that card. PSA 10 rookie card. How can that be? I mean, how can that card get 100 grand, but gold's 2,000? There's much more demand for gold than there is the Jerry Rice card, theoretically. But the supply of PSA 10s is what makes the value go up. The supply of gold is, believe me, running out. And then why do the Russians and Chinese and all these central banks buy the gold? Because they know that the money they're printing is going to go to zero, and they're going to come out with the gold, and then they'll be fine. They'll be all set because they'll go, now I have something of value. And the euro went down, and the British pound, the Swiss franc, and the yuan, and the yen, and all these currencies are going down the toilet because they're not backed by anything. They just keep printing. And eventually, supply demand. There's no more demand for the US dollar. The supply gets huge. All you can do is raise interest rates, which they can't do. So it'll just run out. There won't be any demand for it because it's too heavily printed. And anybody with the US dollars goes and buys gold and silver. And that's what happens. So keep that in mind. If you don't understand it or you want Bitcoin, all I'm saying is if you bought Bitcoin and you've made money, I would sell most of it or part of it and sell my Bitcoin and buy gold and silver, because gold and silver is now cheap. So I made my money on Bitcoin, and now I'm going to come over here and buy gold and silver. That's the normal thing to do. Now, people, well, gold's not going anywhere. Silver is 27 an ounce. It's not. You're right. But it's being held down. It's not free market. And eventually free market, when the demand gets stronger, you can't get it now. That's all I hear is on YouTube, these people with these silver companies going, there's no more. We can't get any. It's running out. That has to increase. That supply dropping has to increase when demand is high, the price. So that is what's happening. It's just a matter of when it happens. It should be soon, but buy your silver now and just hold it. I mean, you can't go wrong, but if you hold your dollar, put it this way, if you just hold your dollar, you're losing value. If you got it in a 10-year bond, you're losing value. You don't have it in the bank because the savings account gives you nothing. So you get no interest on it and losing value. If you hold US dollars, you're losing value. They're printing it, which causes the inflation, which causes too much of it, which makes the value drop. Very simple. So you can't be in US dollars. What's your choice? I'll buy a house, I'll buy gold and silver, I'll buy Bitcoin, I'll buy Mickey Mantle cards, but I don't want to be in US dollars. So that's all I'm saying. But because gold and silver is so cheap, you buy it, and then like this tough stuff I just showed you, a few years later, now your gold's 100,000 an ounce, and you're going, pretty smart. I bought gold. I'm pretty smart if I bought the Jordan card at 310 in 1991. How smart am I if I bought a mint condition Jordan card in 1991, his 1986 Flair rookie that goes for $1 million as a 10? How smart am I if I bought it and just held it? Am I smart? Did I just make a lot of money? That's my point with gold and silver. Am I to buy it cheap because I know it's not market, it's being held down, and I just hold it, and then eventually the shit hits the fan and the price goes up? How smart am I if I own 10 ounces of gold in 2 years from now and it's at 50,000 an ounce? Now, would you have guessed that the $300 Jordan card is now $1 million? Okay, PSA 10, PSA 9, I don't know what it's at, 50, 60,000, let's say. How smart am I to have bought it? I bought Bobby Orr cards back then in the 90s. They're all worth $10,000, $20,000. Am I smart? Yeah, because I was smart enough to get the player, and I was smart enough to get the condition. Because I see these in near men, I go, if I get a mint one and I get the right player, Jordan, Magic Johnson, Bobby Orr, Mickey Mantle, Willie Mays, I know those are going to go up if it's a mint condition, because I couldn't find mint condition. So it took me a while to find it. So that's really the key of what I'm talking about, is gold and silver will go up, and it's just a matter of when. But how smart are you going to be to have it, and then it goes up and you're going to say, hey, I got some. How about that? That's all I'm saying. You can't predict when the Jordan was going to go through the roof, but you had a good idea that it was very hard to find, and it's Jordan. It was very much, no, this was back when Jordan hadn't won the championships yet. He won it. The Pistons won in 89 and 90. He hadn't won. He couldn't beat the Pistons. He couldn't beat Boston. He hadn't won anything yet in 1990. I think 91 is when he beat the Lakers. So he won 91, 92, 93. They kicked him out for gambling in 94, 95, and then he won 96, 97, 98. So he won his six after this. And the only reason he has value is because he won six, and he couldn't beat Isaiah, and he couldn't beat Bird, and then he did beat Magic that one year. 707. I don't know. I've never heard of that area code before. Sounds like somebody selling me insurance. 707. Anyway, so that, Jordan was not as good as Magic because he won six. They give it to him, and he wasn't as good as Bird or, frankly, Isaiah, but I'm partial because I'm Detroit. But that's what I look at. But you've got to think long term. You've got a supply and demand. Is there a big demand for gold and silver? Yes. Why? Because the dollar is being inflated and losing its value, and I can't go buy euros, Swiss francs, British pounds with it. So because of that, you're creating demand for safeties, gold, silver, maybe Bitcoin, maybe houses, maybe Michael Jordan, maybe Tom Brady. Those are all safety areas. You're getting your money out. There's demand. What's supply look like? Well, we already know the supply on the Jordan and the Brady 10s are very low. We know that the supply on gold and silver are very low. As far as the housing, it's, probably not very high. And Bitcoin, we know there's 21 million, but we don't know what the demand is. We know there's 21 million Bitcoins. Is there 22 million people wanting Bitcoins with the 21 million made? Or, I don't know. I know a lot of the Russians move their money into Bitcoin instead of the rubles. So is it from them? And they're trying to move it into gold. So they trust gold more than they trust Bitcoin, the Russians, believe me. So the Bitcoin to me is more privacy. Nobody knows I own it. But the gold's just as private, but the gold's much more limited and much more demand for it. So on a supply demand basis, gold's got to be the biggest thing you could get. It's got to be the biggest demanded item with the lowest supply. Silver's got more supply, but again, you're using silver for these other industrial uses as well as money, right? Gold's money. It's the gold standards the Romans used. Silver, it's okay, but normally you use gold, but silver then you use for car batteries and you use for telephones and computers and other things silver's involved with. So now I'm using silver for my cell phone and my computer. And the thing with silver is it runs out. Gold doesn't run out. Gold's indestructible. That's why gold's a higher value. You can never wear it out. Silver wears out. So you need more silver. So silver is very limited in its supply, especially now. Demand is not as strong as it should. So anybody who's going is buying the gold, and then here comes silver. But then what's everybody noticing? Shit, it's only $26, $27 an ounce. For the price, it's very low. So I'm going to buy it because it's jacking the demand up, but they're keeping the price down. So people are buying it. JP Morgan, Comex keeps the price down artificially, but really it's worth, if it was market, it would be a couple $100 an ounce right now, but it's at 25, 26 because it's price fixed. And that's what you got to understand. So is the demand there? Yes. Is the supply low? Yes. But it's price fixed, so it's not going up, but it will go up. You can't price fix. You can price fix for a short time, but eventually when you try to sell it, there'll be more buyers than sellers, and that's where it is. So all these things I'm telling you, these real assets, there's huge demand for, and it's growing. Who wants dollars? Nobody. Nobody wants US dollars. Most people should have empty bank accounts. You leave a few thousand in for your bills, and the rest, you got an extra 20 grand. You're probably, you're paying off your visas and your car payments. Okay. And then I'm going to buy gold and silver, or I'm going to buy a Bitcoin, or I'm going to buy a Mickey Mantle card. That's what you're going to do with you're not going to leave it in the bank because there's no interest. And even at 0.5%, what are you going to, so what does that do for you? And as the money's inflated and loses value, you're not getting anything. So if you buy a 10-year treasury, out of your mind, you put 100 grand in, you're going to get what? And you hold it for the 10 years, and inflation's at 15, 20%. You get 2% and inflation's 20. You've lost 18% a year. Plus the 100 grand that you bought the bond for is now worth 15,000. So you put in 100 grand and you got maybe 20 grand out of it. I mean, what kind of investment is that? So I don't see anybody buying bonds. If you do, you got to look at them and just shake your head. Anyway, so that's what it is. So this is why I'm telling you, supply demand is very high for gold, very high for silver, apparently very high for Jerry Rice in Montana and Walter Payton cards, because they're getting 100 grand for those cards. PSA 10 rookies now. Now the Montana second year, the 82 tops, PSA 10. I got 3 of them. It just hit about $2,000 and going up. The Lawrence Taylor rookie used to be 400 or 500. It's going about 10,000 now. So all these other cards, PSA 10, are getting value, going up, going up, going up. So why? Well, because people don't want to hold dollars because they can all see they're losing their value. So once you see the value's gone, that's what you do with it. You buy assets that keep the value, and you want to buy things where the supply is low and the demand is high. And that's what you're doing. Gold and silver, huge demand, not huge supply. And then the cards, you just PSA 10s, that's why they're worth more. The PSA 9 supply is a little bit higher and the demand's a little bit lower. But if you give a PSA 10 Jordan rookie, then you get $1 million, because then the demand's huge. The 9, you're like, it's a 9, it's Jordan, but I want a 10. So inevitably, the rich guy wants the 10. That was another question. My friend says, well, how are you going to sell it to some poor guy? And I go, well, that's not your audience. The guy selling the $1 million Jordan is selling it to Bill Gates, or selling it to Wayne Gretzky and McNall and those guys who bought the Honus Wagner card for $1 million. That's your audience, the rich guy, not the poor guy who doesn't make any money. That's not who you're selling it to. So you got to keep in mind, the rich guys will buy it because they don't want money either. They're obviously not buying gold or silver, or don't understand it, and they're buying these COMEX things. They're buying the what do you call it? They're buying I can't think of the word, but they're not buying the coins. You want to buy the coin. You don't want to buy this paper, right? You don't want paper currency. You want real currency. And that's what the rich guys, once they wake up and start buying the currency instead of these paper, then they won't be able to hold the pay. They won't be able to sell the paper because they're selling 1 million ounces of gold that they don't have. So people go, okay, give me the gold. And they go, we don't have it. Okay, goodbye. And then they start going to the coin stores, but they're already pretty much sold out. So that's really the value. So again, remember, if gold wasn't good, Putin would own 3,000 tons. China would own 3,000 tons. And it's probably a lot more. That's just what's on record. Why would they buy it? Putin's not an idiot. So again, and China's not an idiot. These guys know what's going on. Gold wasn't any good. They wouldn't own any of it. Anyway, so that's lesson 3 of the economics, gold, silver, and the 5 roles of a financial power. I'll just repeat it. To have a financial power, you need low taxes, free trade, rule of law, stable money, and good communications. And the U.S. doesn't have any of them anymore. But that's how you become a financial power. You must have the Constitution. You must have good money and a good rule of law, not the corruption that we see. So those are the 5. That's the key to a strong country. When you find a country like that, let me know. And that's where I'm going to move to, because this place is becoming more and more communist as we look, or mercantilism, which, as I stated earlier. So that's what's going on. If you have any questions or comments, please either type them in now or go to www.teaserking.com and get my email, and certainly ask me questions or comments. I'm going through my master's program. So this is the 3rd video. We did one on the trade cycle and one on what inflation is. And I keep touching base on gold and silver because it's so important. It's critical to freedom. I don't want any of my customers or friends or family to be slaves. You will be a slave if you don't own something that keeps you free. And it's either going to be a baseball card or gold and silver, which will keep you free. If you got gold and it goes to 100,000 an ounce, you're free. You can, you're not going to be under control. But if you don't have any money, you're going to be caught by the government and do what they say in the digital dollar or whatever, and you're going to be a slave. And I don't want to see that. You can see it happening in Russia right now. The ruble's $110 a ruble. I don't have money for food. I can't leave the country. The airports are closed. I can't go fly there. I can't visit my girlfriend because I can't get in because the airports are closed. Well, that's what we're going to face here. So we've got to stay away from that. Anyway, have a nice day. Thank you for watching. I hope I educated you. If you have questions or comments, you don't understand something, please go to www.teaserking.com. Please ask the question or comment. My next video, I will talk about it, such as, will there be demand for, if gold goes to 50,000 an ounce, can I sell it? Of course you can, because people will demand it. That's why the price went to 50,000. So you will be able to sell it. I'd rather be in that situation than not have gold. And don't sell it now if you own it. it's got to be the last thing you sell, because when it jumps, you're going to be wanting to own it. So I'm always looking to buy more. I'm never looking to sell until it hits until it reaches the Jerry Rice 100 grand. I'm not looking to sell. And keep in mind, it won't even be the 100 grand will be in bullshit dollars that have no value. So you really want purchasing power. What will my ounce of gold? Is that going to buy me a house? Is that going to buy me a car? Because that's what it's going to be. It's going to be really worth a lot, but not in terms of US dollars, because US dollars won't be worth anything. So it'll buy you a house, it'll buy you a car, or 2 or 3 will buy you a car. But you can't look at it at $2,000 terms. You got to look at it, it's going to 50,000 or 100 or something. It's just, you don't know when. But if the Jerry Rice card's 100 grand, is it unreasonable to think gold's going to be 100 grand? Not at all. All right, everybody, have a great day. Thank you for listening, and I hope I educated you and you enjoyed it. Thank you very much. Have a great day.